On this episode of the San Francisco Show, we'll be riding from San Francisco Zoo along Ocean Beach to Sutro Heights Park. Along the way, we'll talk some history with Mr. David Fleischhacker and hear some new music from Animal Praise. Let's ride.
Work it, Nate.
All right, we're just south of the San Francisco Zoo. And the zoo was opened in 1929. It's 100 acres. But prior to that, about 4 years, the property was the location of the Fleischhacker Pool, which was founded and opened and funded by a man named Herbert Fleischhacker. The Fleischhacker family has a long history in San Francisco. And if you look carefully around San Francisco and Northern California, you'll see the Fleischhacker name on many different sites and properties and streets. So we're lucky enough today to be joined by Mr. David Fleischhacker. David Fleischhacker is the great nephew of Herbert Fleischhacker. He was a member of one of the earliest iterations of the Peace Corps and a lifetime educator, administrator here in the Bay Area, and now an historian of San Francisco's history and his family's history. So it's mid-January, and the elephant in the room is that I'm wearing a mask. So if you're watching this far in the future or from New Zealand, the pandemic is still raging here in the United States. So I'll be riding past some people, near some people. So we want to wear a mask. So here's the south entrance to the zoo. Let's see if we can get Mr. Fleischhacker on the line. Hi, Mr. Fleischhacker. Welcome to the show. I'm right here at the south entrance to the zoo, and I've told the audience a little bit about your background and your family. And I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit more about how your great uncle Herbert came to build the Fleischhacker Pool in the San Francisco Zoo.
My great uncle Herbert was a younger brother. He was a younger brother. He had several sisters of my great grandfather, Aaron. Aaron was a pioneer in California. He made some money in the Comstock Lode, and later on he moved to San Francisco. And in order to give his kids a chance to do something, he put them to work when they were like 15, 16 years old, and he started a paper box company to do that. Early in the, after about by the time my grandfather was maybe 16 or 18, and his brother was 17, he sent Herbert up to look around for paper sources. He went to Oregon. He found an old paper mill and was able to somehow buy it. We never know where the money came from, but we used to have some suspicion. He and his brother, my grandfather, together did a lot of work on paper mills and power sources. They had very large ones. So when they made some money, by the time the fire had pretty much destroyed the city, they were starting to be prosperous. They got involved in lots of things. Herbert was the one who liked to do fun things. So Herbert, at some point, he was also political. He got involved with Sonny Jim Rolfe, who was the longest standing mayor. And he was his supporter. So Sonny Jim awarded Herbert by making him head of the Parks Commission. And as part of that, Herbert created a zoo and the pool on this land out where you are right now, which then belonged to the Spring Valley Water Company. I kind of think Herbert knew people at the Spring Valley Water Company, and they wanted to make money by selling the land to the city, which they did. The city paid for pretty much everything. Herbert was more a promoter than a donor, but he pushed it, and he stayed on the park commissioner for 20 years, and he followed up, and after building the pool, which was the first step, he built a playground out there, and then he built the zoo later on because he liked animals, and stayed on for quite a while until Herbert eventually ran into financial troubles and lost most of his money. But he still kind of stayed around. He was kind of a character, and people liked him.
Wonderful. So I'm actually kind of riding a lap around this big parking lot, which actually used to be the
Was the
footprint of the
pool.
pool.
That's it.
Yeah,
You're right in the pool, but you're staying dry.
exactly. I'm riding a bike instead of rowing a boat. Apparently, it was big enough to row boats in. It was a
Yes,
thousand
the
feet.
lifeguards were in
Yeah,
rowboats.
amazing. 1,000 feet long, 150 feet wide, 6.5 million gallons of water. It would be still the top 10 uh, biggest pools in the world if it existed now.
I think that's probably true, but it's hard to swim there now.
So now I'm in front of the zoo entrance, and so the zoo was named after the Fleischhacker family for a short time,
Yeah.
and you mentioned that some of your family members were named after animals in the zoo.
No, the
Wonderful.
animals were named to them.
That's
Thank you.
right.
Elephants,
Yeah.
the early elephants, and Carrie and one of the other ones, Bella, not Bella, Be- Be- uh, Belle. There was an elephant named Bella, and there was an elephant named Carrie, and they were named after Herbert's sisters. There may have been others. I was not around at the time, but I know when I went to the zoo, which was by the time I was 3 or 4, 1940. Uh, I was always told that those elephants were named after my relatives, and there was a resemblance. They were large people.
I'm headed to the last remnants of the pool, and I want to point out there's a plaque here that details the history of the pool and the Fleischhacker family in San Francisco. I'll point the camera towards the grand entrance, and it must have just been so spectacular. It's like 1925 or something around there,
Yes,
and it
25
just
it was built.
yeah. So this just must have been an incredible beacon for this very quiet part of the city at that time.
Yeah, there was nothing much there. There are some photos you can find online of the area with, I have a map too, and there was nothing there basically. Just the pool was a huge chunk of land. And then, of course, Herbert was also involved with putting in the train, which is still there under somebody else's name, and the merry-go-round, which I think is named for somebody else who gave money later on, and the mother's house, which is still there. You can see the mother's house, but you have to go into the zoo to see it, and it's kind of empty right now. But it has some very nice murals in it, and maybe someday somebody else with a lot of money will restore the mother's building.
That'd be great. So I'm headed back out to Ocean Beach. I want to ask you before I sign off, what's your favorite memory of Ocean Beach or Beach LA or the Cliff House or the pool or the zoo?
I think, yeah, first, my favorite memory is being a small child, going to the zoo, riding on the train. I used to look forward to the train more than anything. And they also had some wonderful curlicue slides out there. My second, more recently, I go to Beach Chalet. I used to go there for food when you could go to restaurants, and I like that. And of course, I remember the Cliff House when they had the Musée Mécanique there. It's now downtown, as you know, and I like that. And there were also other things. There was a roller skating rink out there at the bottom of the hill where the Cliff House is, and
Oh,
that was
really?
fun. Our
Down
school
at the Playland area? Was that where the roller
Yes,
skating rink was?
it was at the north end of Playland, just beyond the last cross street. There was a very large roller skating rink, and my school used to go out there once a year for roller skating. And of course, Playland was great too. I love all people, kids my age. We would get in the Muni, which you could. We get on the streetcar, go out to the Playland, and do all that stuff. And Playland was great. Now it's all built up.
Thanks for being with us today, Mr. Fleischhacker. I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you for your interest. We'll talk again sometime.
Yep. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So a few weeks ago, I sent out a call for local musicians here in the Bay Area, and I heard this song called Quicksand by Animal Prince, and I just thought it was so amazing and so polished. And it turns out they're making this music out of their home, Faye and Grant. And so we're lucky enough to talk to them today. Here they are. Hello, Faye and Grant. Welcome to the show.
Much for having
Thanks.
us.
Excited to be here.
The audience hasn't heard your song yet, but for someone who hasn't heard your music, how would you describe it?
It's a feel good song. You know, when we wrote it, we very much kind of wanted to evoke somebody feeling like they were on an island oasis. And so we hope that comes through when you listen to it. But yeah.
And so I know that you have been very long, but you did tell me that the area has influenced what you guys are doing. Maybe you can tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, totally. We've been in the Bay Area for almost 4 years, and I feel like the Bay Area has just the perfect combination of natural beauty and wilderness to explore, as well as just a very open community where people have the freedom and the encouragement to express themselves and explore themselves. So yeah, we're really inspired by the Bay Area.
And you guys were on a West Coast tour before the pandemic hit, I heard. What are the stops you had made, and where were you planning to go next?
Well, we played what sadly might have been the last show at the Boom Boom Room in San Francisco. And I suppose we also played in Santa Cruz. We were planning on going to Portland as well as Eugene, Oregon, and then down through LA, the LA area, and I suppose it's Seattle as well.
Yeah.
But things transpired differently for us as well as so many other people. So what can you know? So we had a tour in our living room instead.
Assuming the pandemic will be under control this year, what are your plans for 2021?
Luckily we have gotten to do a lot of writing this year, or this past year. I think 2020 was a really fantastic year for some introspection, at least for us. And it was a really great time to write a lot of new material, really endless inspiration in terms of world events and everything else. So hopefully in 2021, right now we're recording a lot of the songs we wrote, and we plan on putting out a record by the end of the year. So we're really excited about that.
We're about to play the song, and so where would fans find your music going forward?
The best place is Spotify, but we're on all platforms. And if you want to support local, Bandcamp is a great platform.
Nice. And it's Animal Prince like the son of a king, not Animal Prints, correct?
Important. Yes, like royalty.
Awesome. Great to see you guys. Thanks so much for joining us. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Cheers.
Your quicksand, I'm sinking into you.
Up ahead is the iconic Cliff House. That location's housed restaurants for many, many years. Right now it's closed because of economic impact from the pandemic. A lot of people are upset by this, but I believe that the Cliff House will be back. It's taken many forms. It was originally a small building that was converted into an ornate clubhouse by Adolf Sutro, burned down, was rebuilt again, then remodeled. I believe it'll be back. Cliff House was built by Adolf Sutro. We're headed to Sutro Heights Park. Adolf Sutro owned a mansion up on the cliff here to the right. The mansion was eventually torn down and turned into a park. We could spend an entire episode talking about Adolf Sutro. The story is so fascinating. Adolf Sutro was a German Jew that whose family fled Germany in 1848 because of the Prussian Revolution. He made his way to Virginia City, Nevada in 1849, where there was a second mining rush happening. It wasn't the gold rush, it was a silver rush. He made a fortune not by mining, but he had a very clever idea, which was to create a tunnel that would drain off dangerous floodwaters from the mines. For this service, he was paid about an average of $10,000 a day, which by the miners. In today's dollars, that's about $330,000. So he became rich very fast. After the silver rush was done, he returned to San Francisco, where he made large investments in real estate. One of those investments was this corner of the city. The other was Mount Sutro, where the University of California, San Francisco is now. And the third was Mount Davidson. I want to thank our guests again, Mr. David Fleischacker and Animal Prince, for joining us. Don't forget you can find Animal Prince's music on Spotify. If you enjoyed this tour, like and subscribe. Let me know in the comments below if there are any other sites or people you'd like me to talk to. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.